everyone. Welcome to today's Facebook Livestream panel, What It Takes to Succeed as a First-Generation College Student. This panel is brought to you by the Communities and Schools Alumni Leadership Network, which just launched in May. The Alumni Leadership Network supports students who have been served by communities and schools and have graduated from high school and gone on to college, career, military, whatever the next step is in their lives. The Alumni Leadership Network provides CIS alumni with a supportive community to share resources and experiences, and we also provide professional and personal leadership development opportunities for our alumni. There are a couple organizations in particular that help make Communities and Schools alumni work possible. Special thanks to the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and Capital One Foundation for their critical investments in helping grow Communities and Schools alumni network and programming. The participants in this panel are all Communities and Schools alumni leaders. They have been working for the past year to develop the strategy behind the Communities and Schools Alumni Leadership Network. They are all first-generation college students, meaning they are first in their family to attend or to graduate from college. We know that this is the time of year when high school graduates across the country are getting ready to go to college. Whether or not you are first in your family to go, this is an exciting and uncertain time. During this panel, our CIS alumni will share their accomplishments, challenges, their journey to college, and where they've turned to for support, and what it means to them to be a first-generation college student. This is an interactive panel, and we hope you use the comment feature to cheer on our alumni and ask them questions. We'll be sharing these thoughts and questions with the alumni throughout the panel. Thank you for joining us, and without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our panel facilitator, San Antonio City Council member, Communities and Schools of San Antonio alumnus, chair of the Communities and Schools Alumni Leadership Network, and first-generation college student, Ray Saldana.
Thank you, and hello to everyone. I'm happy to get to lead the panel discussion here as we're talking with a few CIS folks who've been either served through CIS or are alumni of CIS. Today's topic is to really discuss about what it takes to succeed as a first-generation high school graduate and then college graduate in some cases who have already graduated, some who are still going through college. And we're going to talk about really what it takes to be first generation, what it means, what are the challenges that sometimes we face, and really just to introduce myself again, as was described, I am a first generation high school graduate, first generation college graduate, and I think just to start it off in terms of identifying what those experiences are, for many students who are first in their family, oftentimes you don't have a lot of support back home in terms of I failed my first test, or I'm in a new environment, or I'm in a place where there are other challenges that I just haven't experienced before, and I can't really go back home and ask questions about that. Those are the types of things that sometimes first-generation college-going students are facing. So what we'd like to do today is talk about some of those things that are coming through, and I want to introduce I'll allow the distinguished panel to introduce themselves, and we'll start with Brittany. You'll introduce yourself.
Hello everyone, my name is Brittany and I am affiliated with CIS in Atlanta. I completed my master's degree last July 2016 from the University of Georgia, and I currently work as a foster care caseworker for the Department of Family and Children Services.
Hello, I'm James Rivera. I am alumni of CIS of East Texas, centered in Lufkin, Texas. I am a junior at the University of Texas at San Antonio, majoring in criminal justice and public administration.
Hi everyone, my name is Talitha Halley and I'm an alum of CIS Houston, an alumni of Howard University, and I work at Under Armour as associates.
Thank you to the group for introducing themselves, and just as a reminder, this is an interactive panel, so if you can ask questions, you can leave comments, and we'll check in between questions to make sure that we answer those to the best that we can. So let's start off the discussion in terms of, think about yourselves as high school graduates, and I guess the question I'll start with you, Brittany, is what were your plans after high school, and was college on your radar?
Honestly, for me, college was not on my radar. I actually entered right into the workforce after graduating from high school. But when I did decide to go back to school, I actually ended up enrolling in I don't know how I would describe the university, but it was called Brown Mackey College, and I didn't stay there long. I ended up leaving that school because I found out that it wasn't accredited. So it took me a few months to get enrolled back in school, and I decided to enroll into a community college. And I did really well there because the classrooms were small. I was able to build a one-on-one relationship with my professors, and I ended up building a really strong GPA before transitioning into a four-year university.
Thank you, Brittany. James?
Again, college also wasn't on my radar. My mom didn't graduate from college. My brothers didn't graduate from college, and their lives seemed, they're getting by. So I thought, okay, I can just go to a community college and, get an association, be done with it. And when Ms. Perez, my CIS site coordinator, said that, or told her that, she started asking me questions about why, I don't push myself to go to a four-year university. And I started thinking, it's like, maybe I can. I have options. I'm not going to let, what happened in my family determine my future. And it was really a great decision. I still can't believe I'm about to be a junior in college, about to be the first in my family to graduate from college. I'm so involved in my campus. I am a director in student government, and it has been a wonderful, wonderful experience.
Thank you, James. So, Talitha, what were your plans after high school, and was college on your radar?
College was most definitely on my radar. After high school, I had just finished up my junior year on my internship as a congressional page in DC. And prior to that, just like everybody else, my immediate family hadn't attended college. My mom didn't even graduate from high school. So it was kind of expected for me to go to college. And I still can't believe that I graduated last year, and walking across that stage was like a victory for everybody who's helped me along the way. So definitely was on the radar.
Gotcha. Thank you, Talitha. I think what's really important about this panel is that not only are you first generation, but as you're describing your stories, Brittany, James, and Talitha, for a lot of people watching, this is a non-traditional route to take. In some cases, you start somewhere, but you don't finish there because there's a better alternative, but it's a milestone that you have to cross, or a barrier that you have to jump over. And in James's case, it really helps to understand, and in Talitha's case, when you don't have a family who has gone through it themselves, it's not necessarily something that's built into your environment. And the expectation, luckily, college was on your radar in some cases, and it speaks to, I think, the work that we're trying to do here as an Alumni Leadership Network. So I've got a question that's come in from the audience, and we're gonna take this here.
Yeah, so we have a question for Brittany from Nadine Herrera, who is one of our alumni. She asked if Brittany lived at home while you attended community college, and do you recommend it? Why or why not?
Question.
So I actually moved from home at the age of 17, and I've been on my own ever since. I would definitely recommend you staying at home if that's an option for you, because it's cheaper. It'll give you an opportunity to focus more on school and not have to be a full-time adult and be a student. It's definitely not something that I would recommend, but if you're able to stay at home, I think that would be the best option. It'll give you an opportunity to really focus in on school and keep your GPA up and have a social life, because you won't be working. So.
Thank you for sharing that, Brittany. That's a really important question. I don't know if other folks want to weigh into it as well. James, too?
I went to a four-year university, and living the dorm life is
Was this the first time you ever lived away from home?
It is the first time I ever lived away from home. And I've been away from home, but that was for, band functions, youth trips. But being on my own, in my own room, being responsible for my own decisions, it really helped. Of course, it's not for everybody. I still have my struggles, like, okay, do I want to sleep in, or do I want to go to class or work? But it really depends on who you are. It really helped my experience because I live on campus. Everything was right there to my disposal. It really just depends on, can you handle the responsibility of getting up on your own and going to class on your own without, in my case, my mom yelling at me to get out of bed or I'm going to be late.
Sure. So for me, once I was able to kind of come here to DC the first time, I was like, oh, it's on. I'm never going back.
DC
I don't
was new.
ever.
DC was new to you. Yeah.
It was new to me, but I definitely had that taste of freedom and was like, well, you know what? Don't think I'm ever gonna go back to stay. But now I'll say the same thing Brittany said. It definitely is very, very, very hard to maintain a household on your own. I didn't get homesick until after I graduated college, which is so weird and so random. And I used to kind of beat my friends down about always wanting to go home. But now it's definitely starting to kick in where I'm like, oh, I miss my family, and everything kind of seems infinite almost. Like, you know, you're an adult now. You have to take on all of these responsibilities. You have to make sure your bills are paid. You know, nobody's going to kind of step in and chip in anymore. So.
Thank you, Tilly, for bringing that up. I think the question that comes up to a lot of folks is when you're thinking about a student and how sometimes they struggle when they're the first in their family, it's that they don't have the same menu of options that perhaps a more traditional student would have. If it's living at home, if it's being able to afford the luxury of having spent a summer away and know what it feels like to be away from home, that's just not what you find in a lot of the communities that CIS is. So I see that we have another question from the audience.
Yes, so we have a question from Stephen McCullough, and he asks, and this is for any of you, can you speak about the social and financial pressures of school after you graduated? What were your doubts, and what are the things that made you feel like you can thrive in college and in life?
Good question from Steve. I think the way that he describes it actually is the financial pressures in college. I think that also says, maybe even implies that maybe there wasn't financial pressures before college, but maybe that was the case in my family where there was financial pressures on both sides. So, Talitha, do you want to start?
Absolutely. So, prior to getting accepted into Howard, I didn't know how I was going to pay for school, and just didn't really care at the moment. And now I see like why people take into consideration so much about how much money a school is offering. I eventually ended up getting a scholarship to attend Howard, but was so dead set on going there that it didn't matter to me. And I was willing and ready, even with the financial pressures of like financial difficulty that my family was going through and experiencing at the time, to really take that leap. And it's definitely had an effect on the afterlife. And it's tough because my family doesn't have money to pay for my student loans, the ones that I do have. And so that's at the back of my mind every month, like, you gonna pay for this or you gonna pay your student loans, you know? And it's hard. It's not something that is easy, but you do make those sacrifices because you want a better future. And we all know from experience that college, you know, is a step in the right direction to get, you know, to the things that you want in life, and you sacrifice for what you want. My friends struggled through college. I struggled through college, but it makes you a better person coming out, and it builds a tough skin.
When you say struggle, Talitha, is that, I imagine you're not just talking about the financial side, maybe it's the social side, it's the academic challenges?
Most definitely. Being a first-generation college grad, I didn't have somebody to say, you know, are you making straight A's? My family was more, okay, you got there, so if, you know, whatever happens now kind of happened, you made it there. And it's encouraging at times to say, okay, you've, you know, made the right decisions and you've done the best that you could. But it's, you know, also negative in that you always want people to push you because you want to keep going, you want to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish, and you need people there to say, okay, you know what, you didn't do a good job at that, but this is how you do it. So all of those pressures in college, I think they do end up making you a better person, and it's worth the sacrifice in the long haul.
You else want to jump in on the pressures, financial, social, or academic?
And I always dread when I had to look at my tuition and fees bill on my college portal, but we met in January at Town Hall in Dallas-Fort Worth, and one thing that stuck with me is Elaine Wynn, our executive chairman of the board. She told me, don't worry about the student loans, because those who worry about student loans are those who go to college, take out loans, and don't graduate. because you're making a sacrifice for your future. And, you know, what's life without sacrifices? You know, I'm making a sacrifice right now. I just got a car that, you know, maybe I can't go, you know, out on a Friday night. Maybe I have to stay in and save some money. And you're investing in your future. You're investing in a better life for yourself. And it's just a great feeling that when I walk that stage in May of 2018, I'm not going to be thinking, how am I going to repay these loans? I'm going to be thinking, I'm the first in my family to graduate. I am walking the stage. I'm getting my college education. I got my college education, and I'm going to have a better life for myself. That is what's going to be going through my mind.
Well said. Well said. Just wanted to check, was there an extra question that came in?
We do have a couple more questions. One is from Susanna Nathan Files. She asks, and this is actually one of the questions we were planning on asking, so we can just jump to that one. What resources or offices at your college, or I'm going to add, or elsewhere, were most supportive of you as a student? Who do you recommend first-year students turn to when they need extra help?
Yeah, so I guess the question is similar to one, which is, what can organizations do to support you as you're navigating through college? Brittany?
I feel it would be important to have a department in the university that can educate students on the differences between different colleges and universities, like whether a college or university is accredited, whether it isn't accredited. I just find that a lot of students nowadays just kind of like jump into schools. It seems like everybody, in my opinion, are opening up schools, and students are getting enrolled in these schools, getting this really high debt at schools that don't really have reputations, and they find once they are deep into the program that those credits are not transferable. So I would definitely like to see students be educated more on how to pick schools and what would best meet their needs.
Anyone else want to weigh in on the question on how organizations that support you as you're navigating your experience through college? Got it. Okay. Well, actually, this might be a good time because I want to talk about something very quickly that the Alumni Leadership Network has been trying to put together for the last year, which is the Alumni Leadership Network LinkedIn. So it's an opportunity for students who are really rowing in the same boat, who are facing challenges that are similar, not just, you know, it's not unique, the challenges that most first-generation students experience in San Antonio compared to Baltimore, compared to San Francisco, compared to Chicago. So we're trying to connect alumni throughout the country, and we're doing it through the Alumni Leadership Network's LinkedIn program. So I just want to make sure that we put a plug in for that program to make sure that folks are connected in a way that helps them get across to reach their goal. So I want to kind of pivot a little bit here, and this question is going to be for Talitha and for James. And this is kind of big picture. Talitha, you've now graduated, you've gone through the experience, it's still fresh in your mind, and James, you're going through it now. So what advice do you have for students who may be first-generation college students? Why don't we start with Talitha?
Okay. Keep your end goal at the forefront of your mind, because when everything seems dark and you feel like you can't finish, that's what's going to keep you going. The decisions that you make in these 4 years are going to be the ones that kind of set the tone for how your life is going to be thereafter college. Make sure you're headstrong, don't take no for an answer, and grab every opportunity that you can get because you never know if they're going to come by again.
Thank you.
I've had to give advice about this to a couple of people, and the one thing I tell them is, you know, ask them, are you scared, are you nervous? And they're just like, yes. And I say, good. It is okay to be scared and nervous. It is okay to be terrified. And I tell them this, you know, ask questions, learn something. If you make a mistake, it does not mean you're going to be a failure. You learn from those mistakes, you move on. You know, get involved in your campus because it can mean the world of difference, whether you're involved in your campus or you're not involved. And, you know, have fun, relax when you can. You know, college isn't all study, 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 class, class, class. There's a time to study and there's a time to relax, you know. And it's really depending on, can you balance class and that time to relax. You know, it's okay to have fun. It's okay to, you know, sit back and relax and say, you know what, I did a lot of work today, I studied a lot, I'm gonna relax. And it's really, and make friends also. Making friends is a really big
a good life advice.
That's important. Be
We have-
social.
So we have a question here from the audience.
Yes, we have a question, and I apologize in advance for butchering this person's name. It's from Giovanni Benitez. And the question is it better to be involved on campus? And James, I think you touched upon this. Is it better to be involved on campus or just focus and get good grades and graduate in time? Can you do both? If so, what are some challenges of being involved with clubs and organizations and being a full-time student?
Well, we can start with James, and if anybody else wants to jump in.
It is very important to get involved on campus because I'm involved in student government. I'm the director of the Downtown Task Force. And what getting involved on campus means is that you're connecting yourself to people who have the same interests as you. I mean, at UTSA, we have over 300 registered student organizations ranging from fraternities and sororities all the way to a chess club. I think there's a Pokemon club that might be coming up
That's
soon.
probably pretty popular. Yeah.
And it's all about time management. You know, I have SGA. I'm connected with a bunch of officials and staff and administrative at UTSA, and it's pretty awesome. I'm met with the chief of UTSA PD. I've met with a couple of deans from colleges. The president of my university knows me by name, and it's also great because further down the road, you're gonna have these connections that you can put on a reference on an application. It's like, hey, you can ask the president of the university. He knows me. He can vouch for me. And you can balance school and this organization that it's all about time management, you know? And it's possible because when you're part of an organization, there's students just like you. You can say, I can't go to this event because I have a test to study for. They're not going to kick you out of the organization. They're going to say, oh, I understand. 2 people just came up to me and said, yeah, I have the same test. Let's do a study group. So it's kind of like a domino effect and just being connected with people who are just like you.
Thank you, James. We have another question that comes through.
We actually have a comment. It's from Kwame Johnson, who used to work for Communities in Schools, and he just wanted to say great work. We also just had another comment come in from Dan Cardinale, who was president for Communities in Schools until very recently. Everyone waves Dan. And he said, what an extraordinary group of leaders.
Thank you for your comment, Dan. A lot of folks up here are very proud of the work you're doing. Actually, I just want to take a quick pause because I think we're talking about something that we want to separate, which is the experience of going to college for everybody, regardless of whether it's your first generation, you're rich, you're poor. It gets everyone nervous. I guess the question is the experience that somebody who is coming from a first generation background, the way they react to it. So I want to ask about a time that I'll start with an example that I had. So, I'm from a community where not many of us went to college. So I was one of the first in the area to get to a school that was far away. So I had to be pretty good at the top of my class. But when I got there, I started realizing that I'm not as smart as I thought I was, and I failed my first test. And the first time I failed my first test, I was like, I'm not cut out for this. College is not for me. I should have listened to them back home and just stayed around my community and it started to work. So for me, it was failing my first test. For you, was it experience? Was it academic? Was it financial? Was it something that was challenging you that you remember? You say, I remember that time. I felt lost. Is there any moment that comes to mind?
Absolutely. Every day. No, I'm just kidding. Not anymore so much. My freshman year, the same. I, was involved in high school. I played sports. I was on every team. I played sports all year round. I was in a bunch of clubs and organizations. Social life was out of this world, and my grades were good, and I was happy. Coming to college, Howard was the only school that I wanted to attend, and I was dead set on going there. But when I got there, you learn very quickly that everybody wants to be great. And I grappled with kind of finding a place to fit in. Like you, Ray, I thought, that I was smart. But coming there, everybody's president of this, of their class. Everybody's in organizations. Everybody's, starting small businesses. And their freshman year in college, and I'm like, what? This is crazy.
Yeah.
So for the first semester, I was very shy and very timid and didn't join any organizations. Because of it, I was just intimidated. And it took me a while to get used to everything that was going on, and eventually I found my way, but for the first year or so, it was definitely like a completely new world, and I was not comfortable at all.
Thank you for sharing that too. James, or Brittany, was there a moment where you were like, it's harder than I thought, or this is a challenge that I can't overcome? Is that something that you ever experienced?
No, not for me.
We talked a little bit about this
I actually
beforehand.
did very well once I transitioned to Georgia State. That's why I earned my BSW degree, a bachelor's in social work. And after completing the program there, I applied to UGA. That was the only graduate program that I applied to. And I was afraid I wouldn't get in, but it was the only school that I applied to, and I got a scholarship. So I did pretty well there too, only because I had no choice. In graduate school, I don't think you can make less than a B, or at least you couldn't in that program. So, no, I mean, I just had so many things that was driving me to succeed that, me being fearful wasn't an option.
Yeah, you weren't gonna give up.
I was not going to give up. It was plan A and the only plan, so.
I think James has a comment, but maybe I'll take a quick question. Maybe it'll relate.
Yes, so we have a comment and a question. A comment from Mark Mercado. He says, thank you for representing our group in a positive way. I am very honored to be an alumni with communities and schools. Giving back is key to success.
Hey, Mark.
And then we have a question from another Mark. How have your unique backgrounds influenced classroom discussions? Have you been able to share your particular perspectives in class or in assignments?
So that's a good question. Each one of our panelists, I've got an opportunity to actually read a lot of the bios, and the stories are incredible about overcoming adversity, coming from difficult circumstances where not oftentimes there's not two parents present, and oftentimes you're dealing with challenges. See it, especially when you go to college campuses, where if you're in a college campus, oftentimes you've gotten there. In some cases, despite the adversity, but in most cases, folks have gotten there and been helped along the way. So there's a unique voice in your experience. Have you ever had that unique voice be part of a conversation or a debate in college?
I have once. It was in a student government. We were just in the office having a great time, and we were talking about how has the way you were raised helped you in this college experience. And I grew up a single parent. My mom, she raised me from when I was a little baby. And the one thing she always taught me was, don't let anyone else bring you down. Don't give up after the first mistake. And from someone who came from the smallest Texas town, about 36,000 people, to a college campus of about 30,000 people, it's a really eye-opening experience, and you're scared and alone. You are literally this small fish in a really big pond. And one discussion we had was, single-parent kids. Do they live up to the expectations that society sets for them? And I say, no, not really. Because, yes, you can be bogged down by what you see and hear, by what other people set you by, but if you let that, you're just giving them more of a credibility of, okay, single-parent kids are more likely to be in prison, not likely to go to college, not even likely to graduate high school. That I say, well, that really shouldn't matter. What matters is you push yourself to whatever limits you put yourself to, not what anyone else puts you to. You don't live by society standards or numbers or what is said. You live by what you say and what you put yourself to.
Good point. Salif, you want to jump in?
I actually haven't had any discussions about in classroom with me.
Well, I have. Just last year, because I just finished my master's degree last July. Forgive me, I do not remember the name of the class, but I did have an opportunity to share my experiences, and it was through a photo voice assignment where I was allowed to basically put pictures together, and I threw some music on there, and it was basically a video about my life, and it allowed me to share my journey. And everyone in the class did, and we had an opportunity to learn about each other's background and our journeys to that classroom, and it was really awesome because maybe 2 months later after graduating, I met a staff member that's affiliated with CIS in Atlanta, and I introduced myself to her. I actually shared this photo voice with her, and it brought about this opportunity for me to sit here and be speaking with you all today. So I'm really happy that I applied to UGA, and everything just seems to just be falling in place.
Great, good. Thank you for filling in on that question. I want to make sure that we're getting folks a good sense of who you all are, and I think I've got a good sense of your backgrounds. But in order to get there, I wanted to ask a question about what you are most proud of as a first generation college student, and that's something that I think James was talking to me a little bit about before we started the presentation. Maybe I'll start with James and Talitha and Brittany. If you want to think about that.
What am I most proud of is I didn't turn back and run back home. I'm from Lufkin, Texas, smallest Texas town. I love it. My family is there. It'll always be my home. It'll always be my hometown. But I made a decision of, I need to better myself. I need to have a better future for me. And I'm working on that, and it really is still, I get happy when I say I'm a junior in college. I can never get that out of my mind. And before I came to college, I was a office assistant for a radio station. And we were doing this little filming for this little community awards that we have. And this one lady we were talking to, we had some downtime, and she asked me, so you're about to go off to college, are you scared? Are you nervous? And I went, yeah, because I'm about to be away from home, away from my family, and about to start this whole new adventure. And she goes, James, there's one piece of advice I want to give you. And she said, do not turn back home when things get rough. And I asked her why. She goes, if you can't handle, let's say, a presentation in a class, and you turn back and go back home, how can you handle a presentation when you're an office executive? She goes, life is full of rough patches and sacrifices that you learn in college. She told me, when you have these situations where, you want to turn back home, see if you can work it out, but never go back home. Because I've met some people that said that in their life, when they turn around and go back home, usually doesn't really end well. And so I don't regret, going back home when the going gets tough. Because I love visiting my hometown, I love seeing my family, but I'm doing this for me and for my future. And I love college right now. It's one of the best things that happened to me right now. I'm involved in student government, and it's a wonderful experience.
Very good. Well, actually, I was going to ask Talitha or Brittany if you wanted to come in on this, and I was just going to. So I think, James, you talked about something that somebody once asked me. Said for a lot of students who are coming from, in most cases, underserved communities where you've experienced crime or the loss of life or drugs or gang activity, things that I certainly saw growing up, that you should be fearless by that point. But at some point, you get to college and they ask you to give your first presentation, and it's the scariest thing you've ever done, is to get up in front of a class or to present on material or debate. So it's something that I'm glad you brought up, because I think there's a sense that kids from these communities are going to be resilient, and sometimes they are to some things, but when you put them in a different environment like a college campus, that's all new. Did you want to jump in?
Sure. My proudest moment to date was walking across the stage and receiving my bachelor's degree in political science from Howard. My junior year of high school, that's all I thought about. I just wanted to graduate from Howard. So to finally have accomplished that goal in weathering the storm, whether it was financial, social, or what have you, whatever issues that came up during those times, and it was a hard 4 years, being away from family for as long as I was away. 3 of those years I think I only went home for like one holiday and maybe for a couple of weeks in the summertime. It's my most proud moment. I had my mentors there, my very close family members, so my mom, my sister, my dad, all got to see me walk across the stage, and then my cousin and nanny, who got to watch on FaceTime, who weren't able to make it. That was like a win for the team. So for everybody who has ever helped me along the way, that was it.
So can I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
So home for you is maybe two places from what I read in your background. It's Houston or it's New Orleans. Do you ever get to go back home and talk to students or talk to young people so they can see you and hear your example?
I haven't had the opportunity to, just with like flights and stuff.
I see.
But I'm always reaching out to people on Facebook and social media, and I've had people who were in high school with me send me kind of DMs and say like, you really inspired me. And for me, I'm like, why? Like, I'm only doing the things that, I was supposed to do. But my CIS platform is what I use to speak to people on a larger scale. So when I do go and speak at conferences like the one that we had before, or I have one-off conversations with people who are in power, I hope that I will inspire them to help people like us. So.
Thank you for sharing that. Brittany, do you have anything that you want to add to? Well, I guess a lot of us the question is still, as a first-generation college student, what are you most proud of?
I would have to say I am most proud of going to college and sticking with it. Like I mentioned before, I just recently earned my master's degree, and I didn't even know it, but a lot of people were rooting for me, and I didn't even know it. Like, people were telling me all the time that I inspired them, and when I'm ready, I want you to mentor me, and I'm just doing what you should do. Like, this is what you're supposed to do. I mean, I know college isn't for everyone, but for those that it is for, I feel like if it's something that you want to do, that you should do it, because along the way, I've made a lot of connections with people. I've built long-lasting relationships, and I feel like if you don't have the support that you need at home, that's still not really an excuse, because you can build your support system. The support system that I have now are people that I've met along the way. So, again, I'm most proud of going to college, sticking with it, and I'm the kind of person that, like, when I start something, I like to finish it. So I can't just like start something and not finish it. It kind of messed with my mental. So I was going to finish anyway.
So actually, Talita brought something up that reminds me of just the idea of the concept of newness, something that is new. And I remember so you talked about with flights, can't get back to Houston or New Orleans as much as you want to. But I remember one of the first experiences in college that was new to me was getting on a plane for the first time. And so it's still new to me to be traveling from place to place, but I think for a lot of students, maybe it's not that new. And I remember going through security, being so nervous about what that whole new experience was going to be like. So I had a few of those experiences in college. I don't know if you guys had any of those newness type experiences.
My newness type experience was getting up on my own without my mom. Because I'm a mama's boy. I kind of grew up with my mom, built a relationship with her. That first day of class where she was not yelling at me to get up, I miss it sometimes. I sometimes tell her, can you call me and yell at me and tell me to wake up? Because that's one of the things I miss is her just yelling at me. It's like, just get up. But getting up on my own, it teaches me a lot about responsibility. And it kind of goes, okay, I can get up on my own. I can leave on my own time. Get on my own time. I go to class on my own. I make all these, if I can get up on my own, it can just grow into, okay, I know like life decisions I can make.
Any other newness experiences?
For me, it was the presentations, Lord. The public speaking.
Didn't have to do that in high school?
Not as much as I did in college. It was never ending. So you would have thought that I would have gotten used to it, but it just always seemed new for me every time I had to do it. But when I look back at those experiences, I'm grateful for them, because people feel like, when you're in college and when you're taking certain classes, like, why do I have to take this class? Like, when am I going to use this in the real world?
Yeah.
But a lot of those things you will need once you enter into your career, once you go out into the work world. Those skills and those things that you learn in class, within the classroom, they're useful.
Mine is a little bit weird and kind of random, but I didn't have to cook at home.
There you go.
So
I was going to talk about that too, yeah.
that was, took me a while to get used to that. That's probably the biggest new thing that happened. I'm from New Orleans, so my mom cooks all the time. Very seldom, when I used to live at home, that I would eat fast food. Because she would cook every day. And when I got to college, it was like, well, either you're going to go to the cafe, you're going to cook, or you're going to starve. So cooking was definitely a big one for me.
If I could jump on that before we get to a question that's coming from the audience, there was I get to mentor back home, and one of the young women that I get to mentor, she's a Latina woman, and she said before her mom would let her go to college, she had to learn how to make homemade tortillas. But it reminds me, though, of something that is difficult sometimes for our parents, especially if it's just mom at home or if it's just a grandmother at home. It's the idea of having to let you go that is very difficult. And I've heard some stories, at least back home in San Antonio, where they've gotten to a great school, but because the family just never has known the concept of letting somebody go away, especially far, in your case, Howard, I wonder if there was any experiences with the idea of letting you go on your own, especially when you're the first son or daughter to do that. Did you have any of those conversations or experiences?
Definitely.
Just
Absolutely.
a lot of crying.
A lot of crying.
A lot of crying.
So yeah, as long as you get over the crying, then they'll let you be successful and go to college.
We've had conversations sometimes, me and my mom, about me being so far away from home, but it usually just settles on, as long as you graduate, everything will be fine.
The same with me. Except mine is a crying. They didn't cry very much. But I guess they,
Packing your bags.
right, helping me pack my bags. Like, come on, let's get out a day early if we can. No, they try to, and my family really tried to kind of hold back those tears so that it wouldn't make me stay. Even they knew it was something that I really wanted. They knew it was going to help me. They knew it was going to eventually help them. And I think my mom, me being a baby of the family, always kept it at the forefront because she always asked me, like, "You're not gonna come home, are you? You're not gonna quit." When it got hard, so I definitely think, in her way, she was like, "Well, I have to do this because if not, then she's never gonna leave." And my mom was sick while I was in college, and my nanny too towards the last couple of years, and it was really hard because at some point, and my brother too, actually, I was like, well, you're gonna stay here, you're gonna graduate, you have a year left, or you're gonna go home and take care of people who take care of your family. And so
Well said, Tim. Thank you for that. So we'll take one more comment or question from the audience.
Yes, it was actually a follow-up question for Talitha and the kind of support you got leading up to going to Howard.
it's like a support pool, like a
Not
pool
just
of
one
people.
person.
Not just one person, but so much support. I guess my support started, I'd say, like when I first moved to Houston after Hurricane Katrina. I was not in middle school, but once I got to high school, I was involved with communities and schools freshman year up until senior year, even when it left my high school. That's how great my relationships were, and I'm still close to my site coordinator and mentors from CIS to this day, and they still help me through things. So my support going into high school, going into college, was huge. I had people from everywhere just reaching out to me to make sure, do you have this, do you have that? Communities and schools and my family being the two biggest pools of individuals trying to help me get to school. And I guess you think like communities in schools, but not college, not alumni, not helping alumni, but still everyone from Communities in Schools Houston and the national office helped me while I was in college too. So that's something like awesome that is still going on today that I can't even believe.
I'm going to follow up on that. Let me just take one quick question from
This is actually a two-part question, so I think it's a good one. First, how can you empower our youth that are struggling / shy to take the first step to ask for help? Second, how can you ensure that the future of those after us are in good hands and are successful like yourselves?
So asking for help is the first component of the first question.
My professor, my sophomore year, I think it was my writing comp professor, she said this, she goes, how many of you like helping people? A lot of people raise their hand. She goes, why do you like helping people? A lot of people say, well, it makes me feel good that I'm helping someone else. And she goes, okay, how many of you like asking for help? Not many people raise their hands, including myself. And she goes, why do you have the joy of helping people, but yet when you don't ask for help, you're taking that joy away from someone else? You're not also getting the help that you need, but you might be helping someone else by giving them that joy of, okay, I touched someone's life, I made a difference. And so it's kind of an awesome piece of advice. And I go by it, I'm not as shy to ask for help anymore. And it really makes a difference when you get past that and say, okay, if I need help, you get the help.
Good point. What was the second piece of that question? I'm sorry.
How can you ensure that the future of those after us are in good hands and are successful like yourselves?
And connections.
Making connections, mentorship, I think is very important. And just to add to what James just stated, I never have a problem asking for help. Some of our greatest leaders had help. They had mentorship at some point in their lives. So I think that when you want something and when you want it bad enough and you don't know how to get to what it is you want, you should ask. Those around you that you feel are able to help you or able to connect you to a person that can help you.
So up until my junior year of high school, I was a very average student. I did enough to get by. I made good grades, but I wanted to play sports. So whatever I had to do to play volleyball, I was with it. But when I originally applied to the Bridge program, which is a prestigious internship where kids who are 16 and 17 get to kind of shadow and work in the United States Capitol, I didn't know if I had the GPA. Didn't really care what it was. Really back then, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't actually know what a GPA was. I didn't know if I had the GPA. I didn't know if I was gonna be able to, if I was gonna get accepted or anything like that. But I took a chance, and I said, I've never been out of the South. Let me see what this is like. So I'm gonna give it a try, and I tried. I did that, and I was picked out of 500 people in the Houston area to represent Houston and New Orleans, I'd say, for a semester in one of the oldest programs in the United States, and it's changed my life forever. That is the reason why I think I've networked as hard as I have. It's the reason why I've met some of my mentors. It's the reason why I've done some things that people will never get an opportunity to do for as long as they live. And that, my biggest advice is you never know what's going to come from it, so don't pass up the opportunity. Just go for it. And I know sometimes it's hard because you feel like you're incompetent, you don't have money to do it, you don't have this, you don't have that, but I'm here to tell you, if you just try, people will help you along the way.
Right.
Well, this is a great place for us to be now, because I think what we've established is that you all have tremendous stories, and I've gotten to dig into it a little bit more. And if we're talking about legacies, I think one of the best things that we have is when you get folks or students who are coming from, in some cases, underserved communities, who are paying it forward because they know how much help that they've gotten and they know how to ask for help. It's amazing that you all are here. So I can speak for the Facebook crowd in saying how proud we are of you all and everything you've accomplished and will accomplish in the future for you and even for your communities. So thank you again for being here. So unfortunately, our time together is coming to a close. And if you're interested in learning more about these wonderful panelists or about the CIS Alumni Leadership Network, please visit communitiesinschools.org/alumni. And if you're a CIS alumni who is entering college this fall, go to communitiesinschools.org/alumni and sign up to receive emails from us. We'll be launching a Welcome to College email and a series that will help you prepare for your first time in college. As you talked about, there's a lot of new experiences for us, where you can join the Communities in Schools Alumni Leadership Network on LinkedIn as a second option. So we'll be continuing this discussion about all of these new experiences and new challenges. Thank you again to our panel for being so great and so open to the experience. And thank you and have a great day.